So I went to go see Mario in Japanese. I will see it in its native language per se, even though the movie was made for American audiences. The character obviously came from Japan way, way long ago, and I wanted to see how they would treat it with the different scripts native for the Japanese people. So because okay, so I'll tell you like this. Several changes they did for this particular screening of it, and I'll tell you now. I guess I'll go in order. The first thing is, before the movie starts, before the Nintendo logo, there's logos for the Japanese companies that helped make it to the country. So that was there before, making all of us wonder, is this really subtitled? Because it didn't have any subtitles at that point. When the subtitle started was when, of course, when Kamek speaks, King of the Koopas. I'm not sure if Bowser said open the gates or die or whatever like that in the American version, but he said die in the Japanese version. So the other thing was when the movie started properly, and you go into the Mario Brothers, um, and they're doing the Mario rap from the '90s. It's not the same. It's in Jap. Okay, so here's where it's kind of tricky. When the subtitles started, I noticed that it was basically a word for word translation of the American version, so they didn't bother to really have a translation of what was in Japanese. It was just the American subtitles put timed to what they were saying as if it was, closed caption per se. So I don't think it was an accurate translation because there were some things they were saying in Japanese. 日本語のお話しますけど、今からの、そう、問題ないですね。けど、勉強しますね。そして、私の日本語は完璧じゃないですけど、私のトランスレーションはいいですよ。So sometimes I can understand what they're saying. Um, it, like Zenbook kapag but I understood a majority of what they were saying. What happened was, I think my first red flag, if you will, was when Luigi was calling Mario, but he said Nissan, but the caption at the bottom said Mario. I'm like, why aren't you saying brother? I mean, like that's basic Japanese right there. Nissan is brother, and it's pretty much like that. So several times in the picture, he was screaming Nissan, and the caption was saying Mario, which is what he said in the American version, but they did not translate in the written at the bottom brother. Like Nissan, I think Aniki is like another word for saying like big bro, like you're not related to me, but I look at you as a brother superior, but they didn't bother putting brother in there for some reason. So that's because it was just a lazy, copy paste of the American translation, American closed caption, not translation. So when Peach was saying. When Peach was talking to Mario before the race, sorry, before the testing thing, she said something along the lines, "You got to prove yourself to me," which is like along the lines of what she said to Mario in that at that time. You gotta do this course, and so it pretty much same thing, but like nothing really groundbreaking when it comes to what they were saying per se. Some of the hard, more difficult Chomuskashi Japanese I didn't get there. Like when Luma was talking about death and torture and it being a release and stuff like that. I didn't understand those words in Japanese, so I could not make out what he was saying, exactly what he was saying at that moment. Um, they were talking the Kong Army, things like that. There in Japanese, it was translated as Kong Army as well. Um, I don't know whether or not he said he did say Musko, which is like son. So that translated correctly. When Luigi was captured by Bowser, and Kamek did the hover thing over to him, I was looking for some sort of differences in that line because it was kind of an intense situation there, and he was calling him like Hige, which means like facial hair kind of guy. So like pretty much the same thing. Mustache Hige, same thing. Um, One of the final things that happened when at that point when the blue oh yeah, the two things when they were on the Mario Kart track, and this is definitely a big change. Um, when they were in the Mario Kart track there, and the blue shell guy was gonna crush Mario. In the American version, he said, "Time to die, Mario." In the Japanese version, in Japanese, they said, "Game over, Mario." And then no shine, no todomeda, none of that stuff there. He said, "Game over, Mario," and then did the crush thing. So that was a big change right there. Um, Another big one was when near the end of the movie, and they go invincible Super Saiyan shit there on the Koopas and everything like that, the enemies, and when Mario and Luigi grab Bowser's tail and do the Mario 64 spin, in the American version they don't say anything. In the Japanese version they say "Here we go" when they're spinning him around. So that was kind of cute. Everything else was pretty much the same there. It's like yeah, Yokito Super Mario Bros. So like they said that in English there in the Japanese one. So that was kind of cool. Um, Credits were the same except for they renamed the Japanese voice actors from in Romanji, basically American looking letters, but to spell out their name. Same music used in every situation. Even the American music that was used for certain parts, like "I Want to Be a Hero," it was still used in in that version. They could have changed it, but they didn't. So get their money's worth, I guess. So like yeah, it was kind of cool to see it that way because Mario's voice is not nearly as irritating in the Japanese version because you got a professional doing this kind of stuff. Chris Pratt just being lazy with stuff there. DK sounded like DK, more like DK than and then of course Cranky Kong's in more like Cranky Kong. So that was kind of cool there. So like yeah, it felt more natural than speaking that way. And in case you're wondering, they did not bother to match up the visuals of their mouths speaking Japanese. It was still the American visuals of them speaking. They just dubbed over in Japanese, kind of like the way they did back in the '70s with Bruce Lee movies. They didn't bother trying to match up the lip sync. It's still the same thing. So they tried in some parts, but it was quite clear in other parts there that you were not speaking Japanese out of that mouth. So yeah, so that was the movie experience of the Japanese version of Super Mario Brothers. So yep, there you go. You don't gotta go see it there. It's. Oh, by the way, someone was like saying I didn't even know it was a Japanese version. That's how badly they advertised it. It was like 70% full on that particular screen, which is pretty good. So yeah, that's it for now. Clack off.